Welcome to another episode of Progress Always. Mycal Anders here, and I have the honor and the pleasure to talk with my boy, Mycal Hunter, the founder of personalbrand.com. And you and I have had what I'll call some serendipitous chance encounters. We've met. What was really awesome about our connection is how intertwined our respective circles are. And to put that into further context, we met on chance at a mastermind conference last fall as I was coming into the shift and bringing a lot of things that are coming to ground now to fruition. And we had a really high frequency conversation. And then fast forward about 8 months, you hosted an incredible dinner with some of the dopest individuals in the Valley making moves. And I walk in the room and there are some of my favorite people sitting at that table, and you're leading the show. So first of all, thank you. And second, I'm honored to have you on the show, brother.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to jump in.
We had coffee a couple of weeks ago, and you were sharing with me a bit of your story as you've been developing personalbrand.com and getting that underway, and a couple of the other projects that you're working on, speaking and whatnot. And you have a bit of a rebound story in your entrepreneurship journey. Let's start there.
Yeah. So, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17, and I had my first taste of entrepreneurship at 17 with a commission-only direct sales job. And that was when I had the first taste of really.
What were you selling?
I was selling Cutco kitchen knives and pots and pans, awesome. Baby.
Top 5 network marketing companies on the planet. Cutco knives.
Yeah, and my mom had Cutco in her house since I was a little kid. I used the product every single night at dinner. Like, I knew it was a great product. And so it was really easy to sell something that you fully believe in. And so at 17, I was making $1,000 a week, working 15 hours a week. And at the same time, I had a part-time job working for a family friend's catering company, making $8 an hour. So in one hand, I'm making $1,000 a week, 15 hours. On the other hand, 15 hours, I'm making $150 a week. And I was like, all right, like, I want to always collect on the value that I'm producing. I'm going to be able to create more value than someone else is going to be willing to pay me for. And I graduated college in 2011 at the bottom of the 2008 recession, and going into my senior year, so 2010, I saw that, and I decided to start my marketing company at the beginning of my senior year, and started working with small businesses, and then niche down to authors, speakers, coaches, thought leaders. And during that time, it was a struggle. Like, it was a really, really challenging time to start a business. And then also, when you're that age, you don't really understand market dynamics or the economy, or like really, what, as an 18, I guess at that time, 20-year-old kid, like, I didn't understand, what was actually happening. And so building my skill set in a down economy turned me into an absolute weapon. And looking back, it was like, okay, one of the biggest lessons from that even kind of going into future economic times potentially, it's just like really knowing when it's your skill set, when it's you, or when it's just market conditions. And so for a long time, I thought it was me and I wasn't good enough. And so there's this constant pursuit of more skill sets, more information, becoming better, that in the long run has been really beneficial to my level of leadership and my success as an entrepreneur. But when I was in the thick of it, it was extremely stressful. It was extremely exhausting. It was extremely, like, constantly in your head, and had to unravel a lot of bad habits and or just fight or flight nervous system, all locked up from years of survival in those early years of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. What was your moment when you realized the distinction between your talent, your skill set, your just will to succeed versus market conditions in your favor or not? Was there like a moment where you're like, oh, there's a difference?
I mean, honestly, it was many years after that season of my life where I was able to objectively look back on it. So it's one of those things where you don't, how do I say this? Most small businesses fail within their first 5 years. That's, kind of the common phrase. And so a lot of times you don't have enough staying power to really go through multiple market cycles within an industry to really experience that and to really feel it. And I think the only way that you can know that is by feeling it. Like when it's really, really good and you're swimming with the tide and everything's clicking, and then all of a sudden it's not. And you're doing the same exact things as when it was clicking, but now the market shifts and you have to adjust and adapt. And so I think that's one of the biggest lessons as a leader, is being very cognizant of when your company, your offer, your products, your services are swimming upstream versus downstream, when it actually is your team's fault for not executing, or when your team's actually executing perfectly in its market dynamics. And so it doesn't do any good to try to rally your team and motivate your team when they're already motivated. They're doing the same things they've always done, but they're not getting the results, and it's actually the market, and you need to adapt, maybe change your offering, roll out something that's more accessible at a lower price point, maybe roll out something higher at a higher price point, change the vertical that you're in. And so, especially in those early innings of entrepreneurship or leadership, I think that's like one really big lesson that I don't think gets talked about enough. That's critically important.
Dude, that it brings me to a piece of wisdom. One of my clients who's built 6 or 7 used car empires over his career, and he's crushing right now. And he just talks about, he's one of those dudes, pencil in the ear, we're not leaving till we get the deal done type guys. And we started working together as we were coming out of the pandemic and just getting to treading water out of like trying not to drown for a couple of years. You know what I mean? And he was like, to your point about not having the staying power to live through a handful of market cycles to see whether or not it is your talent or if everything's just moving in your favor. He's like, being an entrepreneur, being in business for yourself is just simply staying in the game long enough to get lucky a time or two. And like, there's so much wisdom in that statement, but from the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, what you said really explains it.
Totally. I agree with that statement too. It's just like so much of business is just being in the game long enough to become the best in your industry. And especially with my companies, like I have a software company, Spiffy Checkouts, and an agency, personalbrand.com. On the software side, we've had a lot of competitors come and go, people that were ahead of us quite objectively, like 3 or 4 years ago, that ended up raising too much money at too high a valuation, and they folded or they filed bankruptcy. And so much of it is staying in your lane, not letting the perceived success of other people create feelings of or thoughts or emotions of inadequacy on your end, and just focusing on building a great product, serving your customers. And as long as you're doing that, that's the recipe for success.
Dude, I'll tell you, that is one of the unintended consequences of these conversations and getting on this microphone with guys like you, because the things that we talk about, the hero's journey that is building something greater than yourself of your own making, by your own design, there's so much that happens underneath the surface that nobody will ever know about. And then you get into conversations like these, you get into rooms like that dinner that you put together, and it's like, oh shit, it's not just me. I didn't mess that up. That wasn't my fault. Or, oh my God, I need to go back and apologize because that 100% was my fault. And really getting that reframe on your own perspective is so massive. So I want to jump to some of the work that we do at Next Level in developing the fittest leaders, because you can identify your aspirational self, your highest and best, but until you're willing to not only change your identity, which is out there in the future, what you actually have control over the here and now is your circles of influence and your environment. And the real work is in curating those things to support that future version of yourself. In your journey, and you and I have that in common. I cut my teeth in sales with Liquidity International, aloe vera based nutraceuticals. Oh, it still rolls off the tongue. So nice. How has that been for you? I'm sure you've gone through seasons with the crabs in the bucket and all that kind of good stuff, or you've outgrown or watched people outgrow you. How do you manage the relationship component? Because it's cool, but you can only be in that room at that table so often, which is totally fulfilling and recharging and all of those good things. But on the in between, you're out here in the real world. We're managing families. You and I, we are leaders of organization, etc. What's it like for you as you've transcended these groups of people?
I mean, so much of it is just really getting clear on your mission and purpose. I mean, for me, there's so many ways to make money that until you really understand like why you're here and what you want to do and the impact you want to have, that everything looks like an opportunity. And so that was the biggest piece of my journey. Was early on in my entrepreneurial career, I was doing a lot of different things. I had lots of irons in the fire. I'm a multi-passionate individual. I like doing a lot of things. I like the creative flow of bringing an idea to life. And so I think one of the biggest pieces of that equation is getting to a point when you actually have tried enough things to know where you want to plant your flag. Because you can't do all of the things. When somebody, I meet someone at a networking event and, they say that they have 6 different companies and a real estate portfolio. Like, I know they're full of, BS, just because like you just can't effectively manage that until you're a billionaire and you have teams of people that can effectively manage that. And so, so much of it is simplifying. Less is more, so that you can enjoy the quality of life. So you can have the space and the freedom to have a family, raise a family, have a powerful relationship, and all these different things. And so for me, it was just the process of actually creating a framework where I could make sure that I was spending my time, energy, and effort doing the most high value activity, so that I could say no to everything else.
Yeah. I'm gonna share a story with you, man, and I want to know how it hits you, because as we've been in transition with the gym, I told you a couple of months ago when we had coffee, I had this opportunity to bring a franchise to the Phoenix market, right? And as time went on and the property search got a little long in the tooth, my spider sense started to go off and something wasn't sitting quite right. And what I had identified was, we got to get, they're out of Texas. We got to get things right in Texas with what already exists, because the McDonald's experience, if you will, wasn't quite there yet. And before we get to, facility 1, 2, 3, 4, opening new markets, et cetera, like, we got to have that, right? And so I took a trip out there, and a lot of my assumptions were validated, and it was going to require me to relocate. And through a lot of work that I've done on me, I had to walk away simply because I'm in the best place I've ever been as a husband and a father. And there's not a big enough carrot you can dangle to make me compromise that. Right. And in doing so, I was very congruent aligned with that. And then when I got on the plane, I was like, oh shit, what did I do? Because that opportunity on a surface level not only solved a lot of my problems and took care of me and my family, but it also elevated my team. And now I got to come back and own it. Say, hey, that opportunity wasn't for me, which by virtue of the transitive property, that means it wasn't for us. Fuck, here we are. And a couple of weeks ago, over the last couple of weeks, dude, I have been in an emotional crisis. I have like seen all the potential in the world, and at the same time, I wanted to burn it to the ground and walk away. Right. And I had an amazing conversation with a mentor of mine who's been in chiropractic for 25 years, her and her husband. And she tells me, this amazing story about how in her time in chiropractic, they've added all kinds of services and offerings and stuff like that, that on paper were exponentially better profit centers than chiropractic was. So if you looked at it by the numbers, that would tell you to ditch chiropractic and go all in on all these other things. And she's like, I'm so glad that I did it, because all of those other opportunities were leveraged on the foundation of chiropractic. And then she punched me in the face. I was like, oh, I don't know about that story. She's like, that's what you have. You spent the last couple of months, the last 6 or so months, running so hard away from being the gym guy to elevate your status in business that everything that you do in leadership and character development, which is what the franchise opportunity was bringing me on board to integrate, is based on fitness. Like it's not a mystery why a gym opportunity like that was so appealing to you, because that's your world, right? So, and then that was a punch in the face. Then she punched me in the gut with, you need to figure out for you, now that you're essentially starting from scratch, what it looks like to serve you now. And in that moment, I came out of crisis and realized the opportunity that I had in front of me. Like, I have this really amazing opportunity to integrate my business, pivot, if you will, so that it serves the next best version of Mycal, not the outdated version of Mycal. And as I'm moving through that in real time, I'm curious, what did that look like for you in your journey?
I mean, first and foremost, congrats on saying no to something that was a really awesome opportunity. When it wasn't a values alignment, or I mean, I guess we could call it a really, really good opportunity that wasn't a great opportunity, right? There's cons that came with it, and those are the most difficult ones, where everything in you on paper says it's a good opportunity, but at the end of the day, there's also like this thing that I don't think we talk about enough in business, especially as dudes, is just like gut intuition, like the emotional side, the return on energy. When you're telling the story about the chiropractic office, it's like their core business was chiropractic, and they're layering on all these other services that had higher profit margins, but those things only work because they were doing the chiropractic work. And so you're actually adding more complexity to your business, doing a lot more things that maybe at the end of the day might yield a little bit more profit margin, but it's a lot more energy, taking inventory, replacing product on the shelf, like dealing with all these different things, hiring more people just to accommodate these other product lines or service lines, or whatever the scenario was. And so I think that's one big piece of the equation that luckily, like through my career, like I've been in those seasons where everything was business only, and it led to burnout. And in 2001, I ended up going through a divorce, and had to essentially take a really, really hard look at everything in my life. And one of the things that was really a powerful takeaway from that was like, I just built a brand new 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, 4-car garage, corner lot. And we just moved into that house. And I realized like I have a pretty nice car. I got like a really tricked out Jeep. It's not like the fanciest car in the world, but like I had a cool ride. I had a cool house. I had a beautiful wife, and I still wasn't happy. And I saw future pacing that a bigger house and the Lambo or the Ferrari wasn't going to make me happy. And so during that time period, this was, leading up to my ultimate, my divorce, I was going through this like deep soul searching process of just like really like what does make me happy. And then to have like all of my motivation stripped away from me of family and future unexpectedly, and definitely wasn't my choice, but I'm extremely grateful for it at this point. That put me into a deep area of reflection and appreciation for what I'd already created, when the source of my frustration was that I wasn't as successful as I thought I would be at that stage of my life. And so what I found was that freedom is the ultimate flex, not the Ferrari in the garage. And for me, I've been able to create a baseline of freedom with my software company where there's a lot more people that have a ton more success in business than I have, but I have freedom that they all envy. But when you can put your sights on creating that initial foundation of freedom, that allows you a lot of flexibility to really figure out what your next step looks like and to play a much longer game than other people are able or willing to play. And especially as we move into the AI age and technology and everything's, we already are in the microwave mentality society, but it's going to get even worse in the future. The more you can be long-term, long-sighted, plan for the long term, play the long game, the more successful you'll be.
It's funny you say that, the long game, right? I have I have the benefit of working in a space of affluence and watching my clients navigate their relationships with abundance and wealth and money and finance. It's really interesting. If you've read Think and Grow Rich, your 20s are your fuck off years, your 30s are your learning years, your 40s are your earning years, and it's, as I'm like running the tail of the tape in my mind right now, so many of them have told me in different ways, like, it's only been this good. Like, I don't have to worry about stuff good for 10, 15 years. In the grand scheme of life, not a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so many of them either started their deal out of the closet, or the company they were working for felt folded, and their little niche, they had just enough of the inside track to keep that going, found a niche inside that vertical to create an opportunity with. Others are, we're buying starving or failing companies and reviving them. And the beans and wiener stories and like, hope we make rent this month type scenarios. Like, oh, man, it's so humbling when all of that stuff that they've been through, you hold against yourself right now, or at that point in your journey, because you're just like, when am I ever going to figure it out? But it's like, when you get that wisdom coming downhill, they're like, don't worry, dude, you got time. It's like, it does not feel like that in the moment.
Totally.
Talk to me about your transition away from multi-level marketing and Cutco into getting into business for yourself. What was that transition like?
Yeah, so Cutco is definitely more of like a direct sales organization than like what people mainly think of like MLM, but definitely like commission only direct sales. Yeah,
I do not use that terminology derogatively because I think that is I think everybody should do it under the premise that it really gets you numb to know. And I had the benefit of an upline that really believed in personal development. And when I was going through my shit, getting kicked out of the academy, snake bit, and the rest of my football career, and getting out of commerce, that experience really gave me the gift of the more I work on me, the more upside I create for myself. I don't know that everybody's experience is that way, but because I rolled the dice and paid $125 for my starter kit, you know the deal. I was integrated into this leading edge philosophy of personal growth and development. And that was really the impetus of digging myself out of that hole. So I don't use network marketing or multi-level derogatively. I think it's a great opportunity to figure yourself out.
Yeah, I agree too. I think being an entrepreneur and carving your own path and having to create the product, create the distribution of the product, create the demand for the product, and fulfill the product, like all of the things, like it's not for the faint of heart. And so I agree that tools like that, like network models like that, like network marketing, can be really, really great entry for people to like dabble in entrepreneurship when the product, the fulfillment, and the brand, and the message, and the presentation is all dialed in. It can allow you to get the reps building skill sets in front of people. And so, yeah, I mean, ultimately I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was building side hustle businesses through college. I have a similar story with network marketing as you described. Like, I saw it as an opportunity to build a skill set, not to get rich, and use that to my advantage of learn how to present in front of a room and get over my fear of public speaking. And ultimately wanted more flexibility to be able to craft my own brand, logo, product, service. And so one of the things is, going back to those early Cutco days, I was crushing it. I qualified for my first regional sales conference with all the sales leadership. And that was my first introduction to public speaking, motivational speakers, personal development books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. Heard about this Tony Robbins guy. Also heard about this Anthony Robbins guy. It took me a month to figure out those are the same people, and I also heard that public speaking was the highest paid profession. And so I saw the impact that Tony was having. And I also saw that, okay, you can make a ton of money doing this too. And I also heard that most people would rather be 6 feet under than get on a stage and speak in front of a live audience. I'm like, oh, most people don't want to do this. So at 18 years old, I realized, okay, one, I had enough self-awareness to realize that I'm 18. I don't have much life experience. No one's going to listen to anything I have to say. But I want to do that someday. And if it takes me 5 months, 5 years, or 50 years, I want to crack that code. And so when I made that transition to starting my own business that senior year of college, I was thinking, okay, I want to do that someday. I want to speak. I want to have an impact. I want to make money. I want to have a good life. I want to have a sense of meaning and purpose and fulfillment in my life. What's the skill set I need to learn in order to do that someday? And I'd already been pretty good at the sales thing, lots of room for improvement, still to this day. But I was like, all right, I got that thing like pretty dialed in, above average. I need to learn this marketing thing. And so I had the level of awareness at 20 years old to start a marketing company, get paid to learn how to do marketing. And at first I started working with anyone that was willing to pay me, but I quickly niched down to authors, speakers, coaches, thought leaders, and personal brands, and started working with people that I looked up to, people who I've read their books, and doing their online marketing promotions, their big product launches, and helping them run massive 6, 7, 8-figure businesses, sometimes even 6 and 7-figure marketing promotions within a week. And so that's really the genesis of that story. It was a very strategic path of getting paid to learn, getting paid to build the connections, know the industry, know the tools, find opportunities in that market. And that's really how Spiffy, our software company, came about too. It was just like knowing that market intimately, using all of the tools, seeing where there's pain points, and then providing a solution where we saw an opportunity.
Life is life. Ups and downs, all that kind of good stuff, getting kicked out of school, divorce early, all that stuff. But dude, how lucky are we that we got hip to this game of personal growth, not even business, but like, let me get to work on me. Let me get to work on my business. I don't have to say it once. So young, you know, like I can't tell you how many times I've been in those rooms with people twice, you know, when I was really young, 3 times older than me, that were just getting there. And in that moment, like the regret of like, oh, where was this 30 years ago? Like, we don't have that. You know, that doesn't mean that it's been sunshine and rainbows the whole time, but do you ever stand like under the sun and just look up and just say, holy shit, how fortunate am I?
Yeah. And you know, sometimes I have the opposite feeling too. It's like, dang. So, I mean, one of the early personal development events I got wrapped into was T.R. Becker's Secret of a Millionaire Mind. And like my wife now, Natalie, I met her in 2010 at a little offshoot of T.R. Becker's community. And one of his quotes that he's famous for is like, once the mind has been expanded, it can never contract back to its original. Once the mind is expanded by a new idea, it can never contract back to its original form. I'm probably butchering it, but it's something to that effect.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's times where I'm deeply, deeply grateful for all the experiences and for all the serendipity of divine orchestration that's put me on this path and all the opportunities that have unfolded in front of me. And that was a big life lesson too, is so much of my life has just unfolded in front of me. And then there's also been, you know, historically there was this aspect of wanting it to happen faster and like pushing and grinding and like trying to muscle my way to success. And the more I've just allowed things to happen and allowed my life to unfold, the much more enjoyable the journey's been, because no matter how hard I pushed or strived or grinded or tried to muscle more success faster, things kind of just go the pace they're going to go as long as you're taking intentional direct action. And so that was a big aha for me. But yeah, that concept of having your mind expanded by an idea. Sometimes I wish I could just have like a resting life and just have a normal life and not have the burden of entrepreneurship. And I say that little tongue in cheek, because while the journey is difficult and sometimes we wish it was easier, you know, from a spiritual aspect, I think that's why like we came here, is to like for it to be hard, for it to be challenging, to become the best version of ourselves. You know, I think, you know, the two most spiritual things you can do are start a business and have a family. And there's nothing more powerful than your vision, your passion, your mission, your purpose manifest in reality. And so yeah, that's one of my favorite things to talk about and help people figure out is how can you go from stress, overwhelm, and grinding it out to mission, purpose, alignment, and being in flow.
Yeah, I love everything about what you just said. And the whole time I was hanging on a cliff waiting for you to say, I wish I didn't know all the every moments, or I wish I didn't know all the things that I know. Because you can't put the genie back in the bottle, you know. That's and when it gets hard, it's like, oh, I know this is a moment. And I wish I didn't know this was just because all I want to do is just be in my shit. You know what I mean? It's just a moment. It's just a moment. It's so funny because in the work that we do at Next Level, we lead with this alignment assessment. And what's interesting about this experience as it's developed, when you get this deeper awareness of self, you can't unsee it, right? And you know, our values, integrity, courage, and ownership, not only does it empower people to, you know, put the appropriate boundaries in place, communicate their expectations more effectively, and curate their environments and their circles of influence to support their highest and best self. All of that good stuff. The catch-22 is when you're not living into that. There was a period before this experience where you could claim ignorance and you don't know what you don't know. But after an experience like this, a lot of times the only person who knows you're not living into that is you. And I'm curious for Mycal, what instruments do you have in place to combat the inevitable regression from moment to moment? When you encounter something new and you default to the familiar, which we all do at every level, regardless of how high we aspire to climb, what are the things that you have in place or that you've done to tighten that feedback loop so that it doesn't last as long or it's not as drastic, or you spend a lopsided amount of time in momentum as opposed to friction?
Yeah, I don't know I have like a specific tangible answer to that, but I think I can speak to why I'm doing what we're doing on the agency side of personalbrand.com. Like, I had a growth marketing agency from 2010, but like really 2011 is when we niched down to authors, speakers, coaches, thought leaders. 2011 all the way up to 2019. And at 2019, we wound down the agency because our software company was picking up. And it was just at a point where we could go full time, took a little bit of a pay cut, but we got to put all of our time, energy, and effort into software, monthly recurring revenue, passive income. And ultimately between 2019 and 2020, late 2023, early 2024, somewhere in there, I had this thing that kept gnawing at me. I had this domain name that I bought in 2013. It was just sitting on the shelf, just didn't quite know what to do with it. Do I sell it to someone else? Do I actually do something with it? I was kind of burnt out on the agency thing. That domain name was personalbrand.com. I bought it in 2013. I was sitting on it. And again, I think that the most powerful thing that you can do, and I learned this from a friend, Chris Smith, one of his deep beliefs is like going back to your roots and going back to what motivated you early on in your life or in your career. And just like tapping back into that can really provide a lot of direction. And so for me, there's a lot of easier ways to make money. And that was part of like what I prided myself on, was like being a business strategist, doing these big marketing campaigns, objective strategy, tactics, like solve a problem, go out there and find the most efficient way of making money. But then you get to a point where like you don't have to do it from a financial perspective, but you have to do it from a soul calling perspective.
Yes.
And that's what like personalbrand.com is for me. It's like there's way easier ways that I could be making money, but nothing's more fulfilling than helping elevate other positive, powerful voices and powerful leaders in the world to have a bigger impact with their message, with their services, with their products, with their voice. And so, it's like, it was just one of those things where like just tapping back into those early days of entrepreneurship and that vision that I had and all the decisions I've made and all the momentum that I've created in my life, like all of that wasn't an accident. All that was for a reason. And I think tapping back into that initial passion and purpose is something that sounds like really trite or really like cliche, but I think there's a lot of gold in that. Just like the first two personal development books I read were Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad and Poor Dad, or Rich Dad Poor Dad. And reading those same books 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, the book hasn't changed, but we've changed. There's new gold in there, right? And so there's new gold back into that initial passion and purpose of just like really tapping into that and getting that fuel that you need to really propel you to the next level.
Man, where do I want to go with that? You talk about the spiritual component of everything that you do, and it's one of your favorite things to talk about. What is your spiritual connection to entrepreneurship?
I mean, I've always felt a personal relationship with God. I think early on in my entrepreneur career, I struggled with some religious trauma to label it as such, but through my deep pain and my own challenges in life, trying to carry the weight of everything on my own shoulders, the business, the relationship, trying to people please, trying to be everything to everyone. And at the end of the day, having all of that be for nothing and looking in the mirror and not even being happy with who I'm looking at back at me.
Yeah.
Like provided a season of life, like in the aftermath of my divorce, where the thing that was most frustrating to me was my business wasn't as successful as I wanted it to, but I had created enough success for my business to hold me at my lowest, to where I didn't have performance metrics to hit. I didn't have investors. We bootstrapped based mainly off of the advice of my business partner, who was very adamant that we didn't raise capital when it would have been easy for us to. And so again, all of these things just happened so perfectly for what I had created to allow me to heal and reflect and see what was mine and what wasn't mine. And ultimately just like surrender to God's plan, because my plan wasn't working out. And what I chose and my free will and me, carving that path, like led to the outcome that I did not want. And so I think sometimes, the most powerful experiences in life are some of the most painful, and we get to apply the meaning to it. And just going back to what I said earlier, I think society, whether it's intentional or not, has said that spirituality needs to look a certain way. Like you need to be wearing some funky, weird clothes, dancing on a beach in Bali for you to be spiritual, or you need to go to a specific building in order to, be spiritual or have a spiritual practice. And for me, it's just like walking every single day, like asking God for guidance, asking God lead me, put people on my path that I'm meant to serve, and just really, like I said before, like business can be spiritual. Like you can have a product, a service, a mission, a purpose that's designed to help lift other people up, designed to add value to the world. And especially when that's your vision, your unique vision, that's something that's been placed on you to create. It's our duty to go out and do that.
That reminds me of a John Mackey quote from Conscious Capitalism. It is possible to do good and do well. And I know that was a struggle for me early on in business. My willingness to accept and manage abundance, right? I let my altruism get the best of me, and it was keeping me broke, and recontextualizing, like, hey, if I take care of me, I can give so much more. And I think, listening to your journey and reflecting on mine, so much of what we create is based on the things that we've worked through on our own. And regardless of how that manifests, there are pieces of that sprinkled into personalbrands.com and next level performance consulting. And do you see it the same way? Like a lot of what you created is the byproduct of things that you've had to sort out yourself for you, not necessarily with a lot of intrinsic motivation and reflection, introspection, I should say, as opposed to anything extrinsic or with the sole intention of generating revenue and creating profit.
Yeah, I think a lot of the content that we've created that we teach in our workshops was created out of us trying to find clarity and make sense of which path to take, how to make clarity out of chaos in your business. And so, yeah, I definitely subscribe to that, where a lot of the challenges that are put in front of you are meant for you to think through them so you can help other people navigate them faster.
Mhm.
Yeah, it comes back to my, some of my spiritual beliefs too, of just like, if we were meant to do life on our own or figure out on ourselves, we wouldn't have been put on a planet with 8 billion other people.
Mhm.
And just the fact how like I'm really good at what I do, but my powers don't work well on me. Like my skill set, like I can't see myself objectively, or I'm too close to it. Like we all have this challenge, right? Like we're on too close to our own stuff, and that's part of
Mhm.
the magic and God's design here on Earth, is that we need each other in order
Mhm.
to become the best version of ourselves, to create
Yes.
something better than we can create on our own. And so I think the earlier that we can recognize that and realize that we're not meant to do everything alone, or we're not meant to figure it out on our own, and the faster we can lean into collaboration, then the world would be a lot better place.
Which brings me to my next question. How long did it take you to lean into collaboration? Because I know for sure in my journey in business, there's myself included. You meet your other, there's like, how many chefs can we put in this kitchen? And later on, you start to embrace, oh my God, Mycal, you're doing what? How many people can I bring to your event? Who else do you need in the room? How do you want to come speak at my deal? How can we support each other? And the just like that room you curated, like the service first mentality, it was such a breath of fresh air because it's something that I had only experienced in the Marines, and early on in entrepreneurship, like it was feast or famine, I'll crawl over whoever I need to get to the top. Like that was not my experience early on in business. And now that I'm in this season of life where I'm maybe it's my frequency has changed, but I'm attracting folks like you that are like, dude, how can I help you move that thing forward? That sounds really cool. Have you thought about this? Like the giving mentality of other entrepreneurs, it's incredible. How long did it take you in your business journey to get hit to that rise in frequency?
I mean, I feel like I've been that way since day one. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what it was or why it was, but I'm just the type of person where I've always been willing to do more for someone else than I'm willing to do for myself. And
Mhm.
that's come to bite me in the rear end so many
Sure.
times, time and time again. I think people's natural tendency is to have like hardness of heart and like get callous and then start to like really like, what's in it for me, and just like leading with that.
Mhm.
And one of the big things, and this new concept that I'm playing with that seems to resonate really deeply with people is in the beginning innings of entrepreneurship, it's your effort and you're trying to get paid for your time.
Mhm.
And as you grow and scale, the tendency is to try to capture the value, 100% value of all of your effort. And and I think that's where a lot of that scarcity mindset comes in, of like there always has to be some sort of pitch or some sort of
Mhm.
like first and foremost, you have to get to some level of baseline of meeting Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like you can't be in survival, fight or flight and then also give, right? You
Right.
have to have something, excess capacity, excess energy, excess capital, excess something in order to give it. And so first
Mhm.
and foremost is like putting your oxygen mask on first, whatever that looks like, so that you can
Yep.
be of a place not in fight or flight, not of scarcity, so you have the ability to give. But then second,
Right.
it's like that mindset shift of going from what allowed you to reach initial success, that
Mhm.
what got you there won't get you to the next level, and how you go
Right.
from initial success, what I call the first summit to the second summit,
Yeah.
is by understanding that there's no way for you to capture 100% of the value you provide to the world. And so
Yep.
how do you create so much value that capturing a small percentage of that is still a massive number? And that's where leading with giving and making sure you have a mechanism in place where the right people can opt in to your business model that
Yep.
isn't 100% dependent on your effort, that is scalable, systemized, and efficient, so that you have what I call your engine, your money making mechanism, your engine of your business dialed in. You build it right the first time, so then you can just live freely. You can give abundantly, and you know that, yes, I'm providing way more value than I'm receiving, and the people that are called to work with me are going to get plugged into my system that gets a predictable and repeatable result. And once you get into that area of understanding of business, it's a lot easier to be a lot more generous with your time, with your resources, with your energy and your effort.
Yeah. Create so much value that even if I get a small percentage of it, it's worth it.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I kind of came up with this idea of with your phone, right? Like this phone, it's, objectively it's expensive. It's a $1,500 phone. Obviously, it's not the most expensive thing in your life, but does that create more than $1,500 worth of value in your life? Yeah. I close deals on this thing. I can call anyone, anytime. I can post to social media. I can look up any information. I got ChatGPT on there. I can do it. There's way more than $1,500 worth of value in this phone, right? So, what people understand in more of a physical product space is that they're able to, through economies of scale, provide more value than the cost of the product or the service or the good. And how can we do that in our lives and in our business, especially when things that we're selling aren't as tangible as a physical phone? It's access to the gym, personal training, it's a service, it's a digital product, things that are a little bit not as easy to quantify.
Right. It's funny. We've been doing this dance over how does the leadership and character development and the physical fitness angle of what we do, how do those things actually come together? And what we're offering in this next phase, yeah, you're going to love this, man. When you come into the next level ecosystem, doesn't matter what level, I finally cracked the code on how to integrate that alignment assessment into literally everything that we do. So the baseline of the next level experience from the beginning to the highest concierge of it starts with that alignment assessment. And I love that. What's beautiful about that is no matter what you're trying to integrate, your mindset, your health and wellness, your leadership capacity, all of those things are served and clarity is created based on the awareness of that alignment assessment. And I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago as I was moving through this crisis, this emotional crisis of letting things go to pick up other things, pick up new, better things. And the wisdom that was given to me was, dude, the only way this falls apart is if you stop ideating, if you stop iterating, if you stop creating. It might be clunky. You might wait. You might feel like you're wasting effort here and there. But if you stop, it all falls apart. Have you moved through scenarios like that?
Yeah, I mean, naturally in business, it is that, right? It's it's forward. It's like if you stop, it's all gonna fall apart. You gotta keep building the plane while you're flying it. And I think we're a lot of mistakes that I've seen people make. So I mean, over the past 15 years, I've had thousands of one-on-one conversations with business owners at all different stages and of wealth, abundance. People are just getting started up to household names. And the common mistake that I see both experienced entrepreneurs and beginner entrepreneurs make is trying to implement the right strategy at the wrong time. And so that led me to kind of going back to hey, your own experience, has that helped direct you into the things that I'm doing? And so I had to actually codify and create the 4 stages of a thought leader influencer personal brand business. And, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4 all have different strategies. And to contextualize it for the audience, we're on social media, we're getting all these, ads of like growing online businesses from these gurus. Usually they're talking about stage 4 strategies and trying to sell you on implementing those things at stage 1, which that doesn't work. Something like, hey, you need to be posting 17 pieces of content across 4 different platforms every single day. Like, yeah, that works, but you can't do that as a 1-person team. Like, you can do that at stage 4 when you have scale and you have revenue coming in and you have a full content team that's following you around with the camera. Yes, that is a great strategy, but that's not the right strategy to implement when you're just getting started. And so kind of contextualizing that back into business, oftentimes people mistake movement for momentum. And it's just really, really important that you're able to take a step back and making sure you're actually putting your time, energy, and effort towards the right strategies and towards the right actions based on where you're at so that you can create a solid foundation. Yep. I call it, building blocks. You want to use building blocks, you want feedback loops, and you want iteration. And the more you can focus on laying each brick as solidly as possible early on, building things right the first time, then the smoother you can move through the different stages.
Yeah, dude, that is game right there. I had a mentor of mine one time. We went out to lunch and he apologized to me. This guy's been pouring into me for years. He's part of the reason that the gym came to be in the first place was on guidance he gave me. My entry into the Thunderbird School of Global Management was on his recommendation as an alum, and the success that he's achieved since that experience for him. We go out to lunch and he apologized. I was like, dude, what are you apologizing for, man? You've been such a positive, influence on me. He's like, he had been giving me his skill set was taking companies from 5 million to 25 million. That's his window of genius, if you will. He knows how to do that cold. And he's like, I was giving you that level of guidance in terms of how you manage a team, what you do with finances, and you're still a startup. So despite the best of intentions, you don't have the resources, the bandwidth, the capacity, or whatever. You're not there yet to implement the guidance I've been giving you. So it's not lack of effort on your part. It's not lack of know-how. It's none of those things that you haven't been able to aren't the reason you haven't been able to implement these things. To your point, it was the right strategy at the wrong time. And it's really important that you have a high degree of awareness as to what level you're at so that you're able to tease out what's for you and what's not.
Totally. And that's been one of the most interesting aspects for me to navigate personally, because what I've built, especially the last 10 years of my career, I've built based off of implementing and executing stage 4 strategies for people who are massively successful. And as of maybe about 6 months ago, I actually got to shift the gear and move into the season of what my 18-year-old self saw, of like me stepping out on stage. I got really comfortable being the ninja behind the scenes, but and so ultimately it comes back to, okay, now it's my time to step out. And I fought it for a little while. It was very, very uncomfortable, that soul calling. And the tendency is to just go start implementing what you knew. But I knew that I couldn't go to the tools that I was using or the strategies that I was using for my clients because I'm not where my clients were. So it's a very humbling experience, especially owning a personalbrand.com, to go out there in front of everyone as the founder of personalbrand.com and start implementing stage 1 strategies and tactics. But like, it's absolutely imperative to know yourself, know where you're at, know what resources you have in front of yourself. One of my favorite aspects of strategy is like, if the strategy creates more complexity, then it's not a good strategy. So oftentimes, like the 17 pieces of content a day. Well, in order to do that, it creates so much more complexity than you just posting one piece of content a day or one really good piece of content a week. And so it's not that content creation is a faulty idea. It's just there's different levels of execution, and you have to do what's manageable and do what's within your level of resources and skill set.
Yeah. I was having a conversation this morning with you seem to be a lot like me in the regard that you have a ton of mentors all the time, like in your peer group, pay to play mentorship, all that. Like, just you surround yourself with people that are just better than you or have more wisdom than you, right? And I'm on the phone this morning talking about this integration of the alignment assessment. I'm like, that's it. That's how we're going to do it. And he was like, remember, Mycal, simplicity scales, complexity doesn't. So if, like, that is a great idea, and I love everything about the very same reaction that you did. But the dark side of that coin, if it adds more friction to the journey, especially in the beginning, it will not work. And it was great to be challenged in that way because it forced me to look at this thing. Because we all think our next idea is our best idea, right? And you have to put yourself at the feet of people that are willing to challenge it and make you look at it and survey it and challenge and question its merits and its utility, so that you don't pull the trigger and waste all that effort and implementation for it to just fall flat on its face. You know?
Yeah, totally. And this is why, like, the building blocks, the feedback loops and the iteration are so important too, because oftentimes a lot of people, they try to ideate the perfect idea in their head and they marinate on it and they hesitate and they delay, and it needs to be perfect. And they have a conversation with someone and someone pokes some holes in it. And so then, shoot, I need to go back and I need to make it better before you actually ever put it into action. And the person that gave you idea was just poking holes in it, but they're not your ideal customer. They're not your ideal client. And the holes they were poking, even if they were your ideal client, wouldn't prevent them from buying it. They were just saying, hey, this is a way that it could be better. And so much of it is just finding cost-effective, low-risk ways of getting in motion, getting a product to market. This is how we built Spiffy. We started selling annual subscriptions for $300 a year before there was even a place for people to log into the software. The most basic functionality of a software is having a login page where people can put in a username and password to log in. We didn't have it. And we started selling it scrappy beforehand. And we overvalue what the market actually demands. We think that the market's demanding something so much bigger and so much fancier and so much sexier than what they actually want and need. And what I found through my experience is people want help getting an outcome faster than they can on their own. Yes. And so if I'm trying to go from point A to point B, even if you are they're selling a scooter or a skateboard, that's going to help me get there faster than I could on my own. And so I'm going to buy that. It's not going to be the same dollar amount as, a full-on car or a jet plane or something like that. But I just need something that's going to help me get there faster. And you can build the two-wheel motorbike, and you can build the four-wheel car, and then you can build the Ferrari, and then you can build the jet plane once you have people paying customers, paying and providing valuable feedback.
100%, man. Mycal Hunter, baby. The two most spiritual things you can do: start a business, start a family. In no particular order, I might add.
Exactly.
Where can the Progress Always Tribe find you, learn from you, get a hold of you?
Yeah, I post on LinkedIn and Instagram, and Facebook. You can find me, Mycal R. Hunter. Throw that middle initial in there. You'll find me right away. I guess there's a lot of Mycal Hunters out there in the world, but Mycal R. Hunter at Mycal R. Hunter across Instagram and Twitter. You can also check us out, personalbrand.com and spiffycheckouts.com or spiffy.co. And reach out if you have any questions. We'd love to connect, and hopefully we'll see you listeners in my inbox or at an upcoming event that we host in the near future.
Let's make it happen, brother. I really appreciate you, brother. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for everybody out there listening, head over to coachers.com if you want to become the fittest leader, the highest and best version of yourself, and you can connect with everybody in my network, in my tribe, like Mycal R. Hunter, and we'll see you next time. Progress always.